here.
All right, Jim, this is a pretty serious allegation that Obama knew that arming the rebels in Syria would lead to ISIS strength. He did it anyway?
That's right. And I think this is really a smoking gun, Liz. You know, for the last few days, Obama's been getting trashed. Trump is getting trashed for saying Obama and Hillary were the founders of ISIS. Of course, she calls him a recruiting sergeant. I don't hear the media saying how many stripes does he have, was he a corporal. Certainly, there's a little rhetorical liberty, but his basic point that they made willful policy decisions to support terrorist groups in Syria, which predictably, foreseeably turned into what we now call ISIS, is indisputable. And I think the founder charge is well stated.
Right, and I think you phrased it well. I think a lot of the media is purposely misunderstanding the element of sarcasm in that comment. But from your expertise in studying these issues and studying ISIS and experiencing these things yourself, you would say that there's some validity to Trump's point that Obama's policies and Hillary Clinton's policies did aid and abet ISIS being able to grow to the extent that they have.
Absolutely, and I think you find that in the DIA report itself, which is declassified. It was requested under a FOIA request from Judicial Watch. It said in so many words that the supporting powers, meaning the Western countries led by the United States, the Obama administration, our Middle Eastern allies, especially Saudi Arabia and Turkey, this was the intended outcome. They wanted this so-called Salafist principality to come into existence in eastern Syria, and that's what really makes ISIS distinct from all the other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram, is it holds territory and claims to be a state. That was foreseeable, and rather than taking action to forestall that, they took the action they did to help bring about that possibility.
Right, and Jim, going back to what General Flynn said in the video before, he basically claimed that the Obama administration didn't just ignore this intelligence, let it fall by the wayside. He said that this was deliberate, just like you're saying. But I guess maybe I'm naive here, but why would he actively carry out policies that would lead to such destruction like we see ISIS creating all over the world?
Because I think they have some great geopolitical scheme in mind, whether it has to do with countering the Iranians or countering the Russians, and also this very naive belief that is, if we somehow make a pact with Islamism or political Islam, we can get them to be friendly to the United States. And we see how that works. We see that in Iraq and in Syria, in Libya, and so forth.
And you believe that they truly believe that the end game of this so-called geopolitical scheme that you're talking about would actually be some sort of peace treaty with a terror group?
Not so much a peace treaty, but I think they think that this radical Islamic ideology, that Islamism, political Islam, Sharia, the caliphate, is essentially a benign ideology. And if we show that we are supportive with it, they will somehow end up being grateful and loving us. I guess what I find also dismaying is how many of Trump's supporters, particularly on another network, conservative network that maybe we shouldn't name, will not make this argument. They will not point to this 2012 DIA report. They'll talk about creating vacuums and so forth, but they won't point the accusing finger that General Flynn did, that these people made a willful decision to help create ISIS.
Right, now I'm glad you brought that up, because when this report was publicly released back in 2012, 4 years ago, it was mocked. This report was not taken seriously. People made fun of it. But now the former DIA chief, General Mike Flynn, says it was accurate. So what happens now?
It's a good question, Liz. Like I say, it is amazing to me that, and that's why I'm so grateful for One America News as a station that really does have some integrity to pull this out in the open, because both sides of the partisan divide, for whatever reason, don't want to talk about this smoking gun, because I think it conflicts with their preconceived notions about policy in the Middle East.
Right, and I want to put this in a little perspective too, for myself and for our viewers. So essentially, what this report says, the picture that it paints, is saying that the U.S. knowingly, our president knowingly aided soldiers of ISIS, or what would become ISIS, in the Middle East, beginning in at least 2012 in Syria. He completely disregarded intelligence from his agencies, knowing exactly what would happen, that this would aid and abet the growth of a terror organization who wanted to destroy the West, wanted to destroy America, wanted to establish a worldwide caliphate, and he did it anyway.
They knew that the core of the anti-Syrian government opposition in Syria was al-Qaeda, was the Muslim Brotherhood. They knew that our Saudi and Turkish friends wanted this Salafist principality, what became ISIS, to form there as a political tool against the Assad government. And they made a willful decision to abet that strategy and help bring about that possibility. I don't know what could be clearer.
Right, and Trump is saying that Hillary is responsible for this too, not just Obama, because Hillary was Secretary of State at the time. What role do you think she played?
At the time, she was the #1 architect of American foreign policy. And let's compare this to the role she played in Libya, where by all accounts, Obama was a little bit on the fence about whether we should jump in with both feet to help the jihadists in Libya. She was the deciding voice to push us into that. I think we have to believe that she was playing the same role here in Syria, that she was the one setting the tone, saying this is the direction we have to go. Obama, I don't think, can escape responsibility for this, but I think anybody would have to believe that Hillary was deep into it up to her eyeballs.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone could believe otherwise. If the mainstream media did their homework, did their jobs, and investigated this, I don't think they'd be making so much fun of what Donald Trump said. Because if you look at the facts, like we just did, break it down, what exactly happened, what this report says, what it means that Obama disregarded, there's really no other conclusion that you can draw. Then there's some validity to the point that Obama's policies helped bring about ISIS. Jim, on that note, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk to you. Our next tipping point with Morgan Wright is hacking against the DNC. Stick with us. We're back in a minute.